This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, as always, my cousin Adam, the Jock Strozinski. And on this week's episode, I'm so excited because I get to hand the floor to Adam and get his review of what Steve Yzer-Man did. I think a lot of people were impressed with the manner in which Steve Yzer-Man conducted this draft, making some trades. Is the Yzer-Plan working? I want to get a sense of that with Adam. And later, obviously, training camp has started with the Lions. We're recording this the first day of training camp, and my God, the NFL doesn't stop. You can pump out 20 articles a day if you wanted to. Got out 5 or 6, I think, right away. And the new schedule, I'll talk about it. I'll give you guys a glimpse of what it's like to talk to Dan Campbell in person. Can't wait to record this podcast. Thanks, everybody, again, for subscribing to the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Adam, what's up, sir?
Not too much, man. I mean, look, there's a whole lot that happened this past week. You know, when July rolls around, you and I both kind of piss and moan about there not being a ton going on in sports, but it's been a little bit different this year. It feels like there's been a whole hell of a lot for us to get to. I mean, right around the corner here, we've got the NBA draft. We just had the NHL draft. You have the Lions kicking off minicamp. There's a ton to. I mean, Tigers looking impressive. There's a bunch to talk about here, man. Just busy with sports and a ton of it. It's a good time to be a sports fan. I think it's becoming a better time to be a Detroit sports fan, especially with what happened with this Red Wings draft.
So I want to get a sense of your review of the first couple of picks, because obviously with the 6th pick at first, you remember when everyone was disappointed and everyone was bitching and moaning that the Wings, struggled, had one of the worst records in the league, low point total, and it comes down to the lottery and they only get the 6th pick. And it comes down to it kind of plays out according to plan, and then you get to the 6th pick and Yzer-Man goes with Simon Edvinsson, the defenseman, the big defenseman, which everybody was like, wow, this guy is massive. He can immediately be paired with some of your young cats and formulate a defense that can actually be imposing. And I think everybody, by and large, really liked that draft selection.
I was a little bit surprised by it, to be honest with you. I thought for sure he would go offense. I think where did he end up going? I'm pulling up the draft right now. It was I think it was William Eklund, who I thought the Wings might take. Look, they don't have a lot of help in the center position, and they don't have they need scoring, obviously. So it was one of those things that made me kind of scratch my head a little bit, because you're getting a defenseman who doesn't really score a whole bunch. Actually, it was Dylan Gunther. That's who I thought they would take. He's played 12 games last year, and he had 12 goals and 12 assists.
He went 9 to the Coyotes.
Yes, but they don't have a ton of scoring. And for him to go defense with that pick kind of shocked me a little bit, and I was like, all right. And then you kind of look into what he was kind of thinking and what he could possibly do, and then what does Edvinsson bring to the Wings? And here's the thing. The guy's not really a scorer. Offense is not his specialty. This is a big guy who can give you a lot of minutes, and this is a big guy who makes a lot of smart plays out of the zone. He is essentially your breakout pass to either spring the odd man rush or to spring the breakaway. He's a guy who can do a lot of different things. However, scoring's not one of them. And I think that's probably going to be his biggest shortcoming. He's a guy who doesn't have a ton of speed, but he's quick. He's got a nice long stride. I mean, you would think being 6'4", he would have that. He has a long reach. So if you get by him, he's going to make it difficult on you to really get away from him. But he's not going to be a guy who's going to give you 20 goals, and he's not going to be a guy who's going to give you 45 assists. That's just not his thing. So a little bit shocked there. Overall, I thought what Steve Yzer-Man was able to do here, going out, grabbing the goaltender of the future, monstrous kid. Was he like 6'7", 6'6" with Sebastian Cossa? Like last time he drafted a goalie number 1 and he was this big. You're looking at him over in Tampa Bay, winning a Conn Smythe. So look, I like what I'm seeing as far as the Yzer-Plan goes, as we're going to deem this. You see a lot of similarities to what he tried to do in Tampa Bay. He's doing here in Detroit. And I think it's good. I like it a lot. If I was to tell you that coming out of this year's NHL draft, you would have your starting goaltender, you would have your goaltender of the future, you would have a left shooting defenseman to pair with your upcoming rookie to help mentor him. On top of it, that guy can score goals. Bit of a defensive liability, but that guy can score goals. You would be ecstatic. There's no way you can tell me that you wouldn't be. We'd have a starting goalie. We'd have a goalie of the future. You've got a defenseman who's here, who's going to basically mentor Mo Seider, and he scores goals. You would be ecstatic. And that's basically what you got out of this draft. At least that's the early returns that you got out of this draft.
Okay, I do have one concern because in my reading, obviously, Steve Yzerman used a draft pick to move up to the 15th spot, taking the Dallas Stars position. Many people obviously are definitely intrigued by the potential of Sebastian Cossa. They think, okay, maybe in the long run, because this is your developmental goalie of the future. But when that pick was made, the reaction online and a lot of the pundits that looked at that pick said, well, if you're looking at a goaltender, Jesper Wallstedt was a goalie that potentially is more ready right now. That Cossa is more of a project, might have a ceiling similar to, what occurred with the Tampa Bay Lightning. But do you have any concern, any reservation that maybe Yzerman overthought this and is taking a risk because he made that trade, that great trade to acquire the goaltender from the Carolina Hurricanes? Any concern that Wallstedt was the right pick and Yzerman reached?
I mean, a ceiling like the back-to-back Stanley Cup champs? I mean, I'll take that ceiling all day long. Look, I don't have any concerns with him drafting
the
Cossa.
Potential ceiling. That's the ceiling is a great, obviously, year-to-year goalie that you can rely on, but Jesper already has the film that says he might be on that path. You're taking a little bit of a chance with Cossa, and I know you love Yzerman, but don't get blinded. Do you believe that this was worth the risk to trade capital that you could have used to move up in the first round to take a goaltender after you traded for a goaltender?
So here's the thing. I think if you look at it the way Yzerman, this is all strategic, and the way Yzerman kind of played this out. He's got Nedeljkovic for right now, and there's no guarantees that Nedeljkovic is going to be your goaltender of the future. I think Nedeljkovic is great. I think he's very, very good.
Absolutely. Was Carolina sleeping at the wheel? The contract he took last year to come. It's crazy.
It blows me away that Carolina didn't re-sign him. I thought he played his way into being their starter. I thought he superseded Peter Mrazek and everybody else that was over in Carolina. How they just basically gave him away for nothing was crazy to me. I think what you have with Nedeljkovic, you've got a guy who is steady and is reliable. Remember, you only signed him to a 2-year deal. So this is kind of one of those deals where it's like, hey, show me what you got. I got to see what you have before I give you more. So I like what Steve Yzerman did. Now, the way that contract will line up, by the time Nedeljkovic is on his way out the door, if he only lasts 2 years, Cossa is going to be coming up here. The plan for Cossa is 2, maybe 3 years in the minors, and then he'll be here. So I think if you look at it, the way Yzerman kind of staggered the contract and kind of set this up, you've got your placeholder and you've got your goaltender of the future. Now, if Nedeljkovic plays out of his mind and he deserves that next contract at the end of 2 years, I think you're going to be in a really good spot where it'll be kind of like having Ben Bishop and it'll be like having Vasilevsky, where you've got a stud goaltender now and you've got a stud goaltender in the waitings. And then what you can do is you can either trade one later on or you can just let them go in free agency and it won't hurt you. I don't think there's any issues with what Steve Yzerman did here. I think Cossa was probably the right pick for this team and for where they're at right now. Look, the NHL draft is a little bit. The NHL draft is real similar to the major league to MLB. It's similar to, I don't know. It's a sport where you don't know a ton about a lot of these guys. It's not like the NFL. With the NFL, we know we've got game film. We've got a ton of college highlights to watch and go back from, and there's a ton of analysis that we can do because we see all of these games. Same thing with basketball. Basketball, you watch a ton of college basketball. You know what you're getting. The only thing you don't watch a ton of is G League basketball. And that's just because there's not really a great TV contract for that. Otherwise, you'd probably be watching that. Now, when it comes to hockey, there is some college tape out there. There's not a lot of minor league hockey tape, though. Unless you have the NHL Network, you're not really sitting down to watch any minor league hockey. You know, I used to love watching I love the OHL. I think the OHL is great. I used to love going to Whalers games. That's why I know of Nedeljkovic. I used to go to a ton of Whalers games. You can sit down, and if you have the NHL Network, you can watch some of these minor league games, and you can kind of learn a little bit about these players. But really and truly, where these guys are getting drafted, I mean, how many WHL games have you watched? I'm going to put how many you've watched in your lifetime. I'm going to put it right around 0, maybe 1. I've watched at least 5, and that's just because I'm a loser. Okay. People don't get to watch those games. So you don't know a ton. You don't have a ton of information to make this type of a critical analysis about it. It's just like the MLB, where we're not watching high school baseball. I don't care who you are. Unless you're a perv, you're not watching high school baseball unless you're an actual minor league scout. That's the only time you're going to a minor league game or a high school game to watch a baseball game.
See, because I can't believe you would assume. I've watched about 69, 70 Western Hockey League games. I'm a big fan of the Everett Silvertips, the Portland Winterhawks, the Brandon Wheat Kings. What are you talking about? The Vancouver Giants. I mean, their rally the last couple of seasons to come back has been epic. Are you kidding me? The Saskatoon Blades? You discount the fact that I would watch? Yes, I'm watching. What do you think I'm doing at 12 o'clock at night? It's not X videos. It's the Seattle Thunderbirds.
What's Edmonton's team name?
Edmonton? I'm not sure. I'm because I'm fixated, obviously because I'm a perv. I'm a big fan of the Prince Albert Raiders, so hold on here. Let me see. It's not like I'm actually scrolling through the WHL.
It's the Oil Kings. I'll help you out.
It says Edmonton Ice here. Come on, what are you talking about? I put Western Hockey League teams in the Google machine here. So no, You're absolutely right. I've watched 0, but you gave me enough time to yeah, no, I'm not checking out WHL. That's why we have you here. We break down hockey and everything like that. But no, I think, look, obviously we have to play devil's advocate. We have to critique and look at things critically. Yeah. But obviously, I think the moves were great. I think that the Red Wings are stockpiled full of picks, and you just love that Steve Yzer-Man maneuvers the draft in a way where he gets what he wants. He's aggressive, and and in his interviews, he's just straightforward. He's like, look, we want to kind of, in free agency, we're not going to go out and get big-time scorers. We're going to look at guys for short-term deals, but right now it's about stockpiling as much talent as possible while improving the club at this moment. So the first 2 picks I've been impressed with. Overall, what would you grade Yzer-Man for the 2021 draft?
Again, I don't think he addressed the offensive needs enough. But overall, I think it's solid, and you don't really know what you have until a couple years down the road. I would give it a B. I like the moves in the first round. Just trying to secure that back line. Obviously, he has he's got a bit of a motif here with what he wants. He wants a strong back line, and he wants good goaltending. And he feels like that's going to be the best way for this team to be competitive and for this team to win. So him stockpiling defensemen and him adding goaltending depth and going out in free agency or before the draft, making trades, adding the starting goaltender and then picking guys up. Look, I like what he's doing right now. You can kind of see him starting to kind of flesh out this game planning, kind of flesh out what he wants to do. It's going to be interesting to see if this team takes a step forward this year or if they don't. I think the expectation is that they will. And I expect them to be better than what they were last year. I don't really think you can get too much worse than what they were last year. But I would expect them to take actually a pretty sizable step forward just with the different pieces that they've added. And look, that being said, I don't think they're going to compete for a playoff spot. I just think they're going to be better than bottom 3 in the NHL. I think they'll probably be somewhere in the bottom 10, maybe bottom 15. of the NHL, the lower half of the league. But, you go out, you re-sign a guy like Mark Stahl, and I think that it's just a 1-year deal, but that gives you a little inkling to what he's kind of thinking. Look, we'll bring him in. He'll provide a little bit of offense from the defensive standpoint. This is a veteran. This is a guy who will help mentor some of our younger talent. And if things are kind of where they were late last year and he's healthy, they can turn around and flip him for some draft capital. And you see what he does with his draft capital. He's able to trade it away to get a starting goaltender. He's able to move up in the first round and grab the goaltender of the future. He's able to shift things around and pick up different pieces that he feels are valuable. And I think your tellings of a general manager are his convictions and what he does. And it takes a lot of balls to do what he did in this draft. It takes a lot of balls to go out there and look, Bernier was a pretty good goaltender for the Detroit Red Wings. I don't care how you cut it. Bernier was a really good goaltender for the Detroit Red Wings. And he traded away the rights, didn't even try to sign him, traded away the rights to bring in a younger guy that Carolina just apparently had zero use for, which makes absolutely no sense for me. So one, eye for talent. Two, you've upgraded that position, whether it's by getting younger or whether it's by getting better or both. And then you're able to manipulate and move around in the first round by giving up some of that draft capital that you've acquired. Like, you got to remember, he's acquired all of this draft capital, and we're kind of sitting around like, what's he going to do with all these picks? Because nobody really knows. And nobody really knows anything about this draft because nobody was really able to play. In Canada, they weren't able to play hockey this year. So nobody really has any intel other than what you watched last year, unless these guys went overseas to play someplace. So this was a really tough draft, and I think he basically took chicken shit and he gave you chicken salad. And I think if you're a Red Wings fan, you're ecstatic about it.
Ooh, I like it. Can't wait to see how these draft picks and how this new kind of rebuild with Steve Yzer-Man takes shape, because he's systematically letting go of talent that he believes is no longer part of the future and adding talent that he believes will be part of the long-term retool, which will hopefully...
I mean, look at Cholowski. He just left Cholowski unprotected.
Exactly.
See you.
So we'll see how these trades work out. I love the trade with Carolina. I thought that was shrewd. I don't know if Carolina was asleep at the wheel, but hey, we'll take it any way in which we can get it. Similarly, the Pistons are in the same boat, and I think Troy Weaver has as high or even equal of a approval rating as Steve Yzer-Man. I think that Troy Weaver has systematically, in 1 year, overhauled the entire Detroit Pistons roster. And now, tonight, after you listen to Doc and Jock, after you get all your Lions fix, you got to sit down tonight, 8 o'clock, Barclays Center. The first team on the clock, it's the Detroit Pistons. And look, Troy Weaver is a tough listen when you sit in the media sessions with him. He is just stone-faced, and he gives real straightforward and slow answers. And you can't, dude probably has a real good poker face because he's just out there still selling the idea that they're going to not take Cade Cunningham. I would personally be shocked if the card is turned in and it's not Cade Cunningham. I would literally, my jaw would be agape. I would just be like, what? Now, for business and for the phone lines lining up and for the debate and for all the fun interaction we would have, if Troy goes to Evan Mobley or Jalen Green or Suggs, that would be great because you would have an irate fan base that would probably be headed down to LCA going, what the hell? But because when you look at it from an objective perspective, there's whispers that, Cade Cunningham is not the most pure athlete out there. He's got skill. He's very talented, very hungry, obviously loves Detroit, would welcome and embrace the challenge. But in terms of pure athleticism and what he could bring to the table, it might not exactly be where the likes of a Jalen Green or an Evan Mobley are. So I think, though, bottom line, everybody that reviewed it, that's looking at it objectively, believes right now that Cade Cunningham is the best player. But Troy Weaver, if you listen and go back, if you can find it, he did say that his job is to project not only who's going to be well now, but who will be the better player in 3 to 4 years. Could it be somebody else? Yes, I think there's a 20% chance it's not Cade Cunningham. But for the purposes of today, I have to assume it's Cade Cunningham. And he's got to come in and he's got to really show that he's competitive, can work within a team framework, and really, under the tutelage of Dwayne Casey, really come in and compete at the same level as the other two, because this Piston franchise, Detroit, I cannot handle if Cade gets selected and Evan Mobley or Jalen Green becomes the next Giannis or the next, Carmelo and dominates while we have a bust. I can't handle another Darko. I can't handle having somebody that comes in and is not a superstar. We just watched Giannis drop 50, and the Pistons could have had him. We've had enough of the Kentavious Caldwell-Popes and the other horrific draft picks that the Pistons have had. Cade's got to come in, and he's got to be hungry and act like he was drafted 5th. Someone's got to tell him, yeah, you're the first pick, but we really thought about somebody else. Someone has to, tell him and knock him down a peg so that he's hungry enough to get on this Pistons roster and really help out. But what do you think the realistic expectations would be for Cade, and do you think that his name will be on the Pistons card?
Yeah, I think it's going to be him.
Yeah, it has to be.
No matter what. It would surprise me a ton if it was anybody else. But I'll tell you this. If for some reason Troy Weaver goes in a different direction and picks a different player than Cade Cunningham, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And it's scary to say that, and it's scary to feel that way. But I feel like what he did with last year's draft was so outstanding that I've got to kind of roll with my dude. And if Troy Weaver feels like Jalen Suggs or Jalen Green or anybody else is a better fit for this team and will be a better player long term, I'm going to go with it. All that being said, I think what you should expect from a guy like Cade Cunningham is something similar to what you got out of LaMelo Ball last year or Tyrese Halliburton. Probably more like Tyrese Halliburton than LaMelo Ball. I just think LaMelo Ball is a little bit more of an athlete, whereas Halliburton is, I think, probably a little bit more comparable to Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham, not necessarily a guy who's going to jump out of the gym, but he's a guy who's super intelligent, going to break you down. He's going to beat you in other ways, not necessarily by flying around the gym or jumping out of his shoes. That being said, it's not like he can't do that. It's just that's not necessarily his game. But I think something along the lines of, 14 points a game, probably 5 assists. This will be a guy who will contribute on the boards. This is a guy who's going to give you anywhere from 25 to 32 minutes a night. And I think he's a guy who's going to make this team better. He's going to make the guys around him better. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of chemistry a guy like Isaiah Stewart has, Saddiq Bey has with him. It'll be interesting to kind of see how those guys kind of come together and can grow, because I think that right there, that's your nucleus. Like those 3 dudes, that's what you got. That's what you have to work with, and that's what you're going to get to work with. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays out. I also want to see what happens with Killian Hayes. Remember, Killian Hayes was the 7th overall draft pick last year. They play the same position. Does one take over more of the point guard duties and one take over the shooting guard duties? Is it going to be a mixed backcourt? Can they both play on the floor at the same time? I don't know. It'll be interesting to kind of see how these things get worked out, and that's going to be for Dwayne Casey to kind of figure out. And look, I think Dwayne Casey's a hell of a coach, and I think he gets the most out of his players. That's why you've seen a guy like Isaiah Stewart and Saddiq Bey take such massive steps forward last year. I don't think we were expecting anything out of those guys. I don't think we were expecting anything out of any of the draft picks last year. And what you got guys who are absolutely studs and absolute talents. Look, I think it's Cade Cunningham. I think it's almost a no-brainer. But I will tell you, if Troy Weaver somehow pulls a rabbit out of his hat and he turns in a different card, I'm gonna be all for it, and I'll be interested to see kind of how this plays out and see kind of how this works. But look, you should be able to get a guy, if you take Cade Cunningham, who's going to pay immediate dividends, and he's going to be a guy who's going to contribute on the score sheet, and he's going to be a guy who's going to contribute on the defensive side of the ball. I think he will be a guy who will help put other guys in better spots so they can succeed. And I think that'll kind of be his one intangible that you'll see when he gets on the court.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it's exciting. You don't want to have the number one pick too often, but the basketball gods shined on the Pistons, and they need it, man. They need it so bad to get this rebuild off the ground. You had a bad year, and so for the opportunity to fall to the Pistons to have this opportunity is great. It's amazing, and they just have to take advantage. So please, take the right guy, and please find the opportunity to really, really make the right call because it has to be a hit. You can't have a situation in which you take a player and it just doesn't end up working out. It just would be the absolute worst case scenario for the Pistons and the entire state of Michigan. Now, a coach that, across the way that is not in any way, shape, or form a letdown is Dan Campbell. And obviously everyone is excited that training camp has started. Wednesday was the first opportunity to get out there in person. And
what were your takeaways from the first day at camp and from just training camp in general so far?
It was good to see people. It was good to see Dan Campbell like 5 feet away. It was just nice to kind of get back to a little bit of normalcy where you could interview a player not in front of a computer screen. So that was good to catch up with everybody, to see everybody there. I'm not really a fan of hanging out in a media tent. I really liked the opportunity to go inside the building, but the NFL has been like, absolutely not. Unless you're tested every day and proven that you don't got COVID, I'm not in that camp. I'm considered a Tier 3 reporter, so I'm not getting tested every day. But I'm within my right to go attend as much as I want. Just if there's inclement weather, I am not allowed in the building at all because I'm not getting tested. I'm not traveling. So I take the trade-off 100%. I fully own it. I have the right to. If I want to, I can go cover any single game, travel across the country, but I choose my family. I choose hanging out with you and podcasting and stuff like that. I cannot handle Thursday flight, covering the game and then trying to get back and booking flights to get home. I'm not into that in any way. I want to cover the sport on my terms. And that's the blessing I got, but there's a trade-off. So I'm happy with that, but at the same time, it sucks because you're not really like considered the full-on beat writer. But hey, I cover it as best as humanly possible, and people have supported it, even to the point where people message me and request other bits from other writers. So is no here nor there. But my experience being that I got to go there, Dan Campbell, full of energy. He's a guy's guy, and for what the Lions needed. They just needed someone to take the foot off the gas just a little bit in terms of their attitude. And that's what Dan Campbell's done. It's a narrative, and it's old. It's played out, but it is, the narrative of fun. The word on the street, the word of camp is fun. And they're going to say it. Everyone's going to say it. Fun, 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 fun. It's fine, but this is Michigan. No, not too many people are falling for that bullshit. And none of our supporters are. They're ready to say, yeah, have as much fun as you want, dance all you want, do as many up downs with your team as you want. But when it comes down to Sundays, your ass better win. And Dan knows that. But bottom line, at this point in time, it's just kind of like, when you have that kind of, really strict parent and your other parent kind of moves on to someone that really spoils the hell out of you. It's just really different. And right now, the Lions are getting spoiled in that Dan Campbell, the coaching staff are fun. They're laughing. They're having a good old time. And they want to impart that, hey, this is different. It's more chill, more laid back. When you make a play, hoot and holler, have fun, but get to work. So that's just different. It's a different style. Look, this is not new to any Lions fans. I mean, they understand Wayne Fonts, going to Jim Schwartz, then going to Jim Caldwell, then going to Matt Patricia. It's a tried and true cycle that Lions fans have seen 1,000 times. But with Dan, he's got a unique personality in that he's more likable. He's more relatable. He's like one of the guys. Matt Patricia just seemed like a football savant that you didn't belong in the same class as. Now, he's won at the highest level, but not as a head coach. Dan Campbell, if he can maybe get something more out of the players that they have, then you have an opportunity. In watching the Miami Dolphins, he got a lot of wins. I believe 5 wins. Out of the Miami Dolphins, out of his, 12 games, 5-7. So you look at it, and by and large, right now, pump the brakes, everybody. The first 4 days are basically what we call acclimation. The first part is Jared Goff just tossing lightly. Then when he got under center, he had 7 passes that were completed as checkdowns and 1 incompletion. He had 1 deep ball to TJ Hawkinson. It's very light. you are getting a sense
How did
of
that look? Hold on. How did that look?
That was nice. Hawkinson is legit, dude. He's big. He is worthy of
No. Not Hawkinson. How did Goff look? We all know what we got with TJ.
Okay, now
TJ's the real deal.
Now, in the check down portion where he throws it 3 yards to the running backs, it's good. But what I saw was, and I was confused because everyone's like, it's a beautiful ball. Yeah, it's under center. But what was weird was I'm sitting there watching, and he's warming up, and he's tossing it 20 yards, where you just stand there and throw it. He was throwing wobblers. And, I think he was getting warmed up. They were the first couple tosses that he had. But out of the first 8 just free tosses that he had, I could see where some people are like, man, that ball might not be 100%, tight and crisp, whereas the others had a nice spiral going. But once he got into the flow of under center, after I'd messaged you, the check down passes were great, and the toss to TJ Hawkinson was very nice. But you do got to be concerned that potentially Goff, when he's pressured, what's that going to look like when he's got to zing the ball? Because we're all used to Stafford where he could just roll out a couple steps, just kind of bloop, and the ball would get there. I think Goff might need that extra protection, and that's why they invested in the offensive line, because his ball just free throwing wasn't the best from what I observed. It was wobbly. They were wobbly. Like it was like, well, this is not a spiral. But it got better, obviously. But right now, it's day one. So what everyone's looking at is, okay, everyone stay healthy. Let's see how the rookies start to look. Let's see how the 3-4 looks. And it's going to start taking place really more next week. Right now, it's just surviving the 4 days, get the fans out there, let them see the team, let Dan get everybody riled up. But the work and the hardcore analysis will begin starting Monday, where you start to see, okay, who's getting snaps, who's getting more of them, how the team looks their first preseason game. But right now, let's just enjoy the hype. Enjoy it a little bit. Dude, there are some hardcore people that are just like, this sucks. The Lions are going to lose. It's like, okay. And Dave Burkett, great beat writer, really talented, one of the nice guys who always say hi. He had the best point, I think, of the week so far in that let's just look at development. Wins, it's just not going to be a whole heck of a lot, I don't believe, in terms of, potential at this point, because you still got to get more talent on defense. But right now, I think this team will play harder and be a little bit more competitive and come away with a couple more wins late than they did. Because remember, in 2020, they were in some games, they just couldn't close. If maybe that extra motivation comes in and they get some of that closure and they make some plays late, hey, we'll see what happens. But I'm specifically curious because obviously everyone's going to talk first and foremost, and we'll talk about Jared Goff and Okudah and Swift and Hawkinson in later podcasts as we see more. But right now, here and now, the guy that's in the crosshairs is Dan Campbell. What are you looking for in terms of him, his first year? What should he be doing, and what would he do that would make you go, uh-oh, red flags are coming?
So for me, it's more a pull of things that prior coaches just did horrible at. So you remember Jim Caldwell. Jim Caldwell wore 2 watches, and he struggled with time management. So for Dan Campbell, like a big don't is please don't struggle with time management inside the football game. If you're going to wear multiple watches, please be able to tell time and be able to use those timeouts correctly. For a guy like Matt Patricia, right? And look, I just think they're 2 completely different personalities. So please don't come into a press conference late and then verbally assault the beat writers who are basically your conduit to the fans. Also, if you're Matt Patricia or if you're Dan Campbell, don't be like Matt Patricia and have your players work outside in the snow when your next 4 games are indoors. Or if you're Matt Patricia, Matt Patricia's the most current head coach who made a ton of mistakes. Recognize what you have with your talent and put them in positions to win. I think what we've seen with the prior regime is they were so steadfast to be beholden to what they thought was the best thing. And I don't think they really took into account what the talent on the team really dictated it needed. And that's why you had guys like Jeff Okudah playing out of position. That's why you had guys like Tracy Walker playing out of position. It's why your linebacking core looked like it had monstrous holes in it. You kind of seen what happened when Matt Patricia was let go. You had a guy like Okwara really kind of take off and play really, really well because he had that flexibility. He had that freedom. You've got talented guys. There's a reason why these guys are here. You just have to put them in the right spot so they can succeed. So if they do something well, put them in that spot. So I think that's a do and that's a don't for me. Don't hinder your team, but do put them in spots to make plays and put them in spots to be good. Also, keep doing what you're doing. You're in the room. You can hear what the guys are saying. The guys seem to have bought into him. Whether it's show or it's go. The team seems to have bought into him, and at least that's the word coming out of the locker room, which is something that you didn't really get with Matt Patricia. Well, Matt Patricia was kind of this, he's coach, and that was kind of it. You didn't really get that buy-in, and it sounds like these guys from day one have bought in. So keep doing what you're doing to keep the team bought into your vision and into your plan. Also, do lean on your, there's a depth of coaching knowledge on this team.
Yes.
You look at the way that he constructed his coaching staff. There are guys who have been there, done that, and who do it at a very high level. Lean on those guys. Do lean on those guys. Well, what are your do's and don'ts?
Well, for me, I'm a fan of Dan Campbell saying, hey, I'm one of you guys. I want to be relatable. But doing the up-downs, kind of some of the gimmicky type stuff, I'm not really 100% a fan of. I think he earns that respect just by having, and I think this is going to be the trend maybe going forward, is that a lot of players relate a lot better to coaches that have played the game because they've gone through it, they've experienced being cut, retirement, kind of.
There's a respect level there, too.
It's inherently given. And I think he has it because he's played the game, and he said it. I don't think he needs to get on the ground and do up downs, 40 of them. Everyone knows you're a 6'4", ripped tight end. You're in shape. We all see it. You don't need to go out there and act like that. You have to have a little bit more of, not a ton of that Matt Patricia bravado, but act like a head coach. Like, hey, you're not a player. He's the head coach. He's the CEO. And I think some of that up-down stuff, some of that gimmicky stuff, I'm not a fan of. But I understand that he's got to have that fully on display, that, hey, I'm one of you, buy in. What I would like for him to keep doing is continue to rely on the assistants for game plans and to just coordinate at the highest level to allow this team to win. Now, here's the thing. I just don't want to see against the Niners, if they're down 10-0 and the run game is struggling through 2.5 quarters, I don't want to see runs. I don't want to see them stick to something that's not working. And Patricia would just hammer that over and over again with, short third down passes when it was 3rd and 6 and you'd get 4 yards. It was like, no. What needs to happen is you need to have adaptability where if your game plan initially was to run and it ain't working and for whatever reason the defense is just stifling it and you just got to go away from it. And I think he said that. He's going to adapt schemes to what the players can do, and in-game adapt. Like if you're down 12, you're down 13-0, and you're just unable to run screens, stop calling the screens. That's all we want to see is the fundamentals get executed, look like a team that understands they need to be there, compete, and at the very bottom line, what I think Dan Campbell needs to do is really dictate and show that he's a head coach. And part of that might mean making tough decisions. It might mean cutting a Deshaun Hand. It might mean sending a message where, hey, this guy fumbled the ball late in the game. You just cut him the next day. You got to kind of make tough decisions and not be so player-friendly that you get blinded and loyal to guys that you like. Can he be that cutthroat? Can he be that Bill Belichick who goes, all right, Okuda, you've given us good 5 years. We got a couple playoff wins. We're going to have to just kick you out and get you another young cat that's cheaper. Because Bill Belichick, he was cutthroat. He would use that talent, Hall of Fame talent, and everyone would be up in arms. Oh, my God, Richard Seymour. Oh, my God. Bill Belichick moved on from Tom Brady. So I want to see a little bit of that. I want to see because I am a Bill Parcells fan. That's how I grew up. Giants, watching them battle the 49ers, that pound the rock, those teams with Jeff Hostetler. That's how I came into football, was watching Bill Parcells and his psychological warfare. Can Dan Campbell tap into that when needed? Oh my God, that'd be great. I did ask Dan Campbell what excites him, and he went off and was just talking about how he just enjoyed the process. Brocker's talking shit, so it was just good to ask a question. I don't like, though, because here's the one challenge you have when you're in a room full of really top-notch reporters. You got to time it just perfectly because there's 8 guys that are fluent and ready to locked in. So luckily I got there early, sat in front, so I just got in my question. But man, it's better at Zoom in terms of organizationally, but in person you got to just be, because I saw a couple of timid people who started to talk, and then some people you just got to start talking and go with it. So it's going to be a little tougher, but I'm excited to be there, excited to have the opportunity. It's a little tough to start your day at 6 a.m. every day for the next month, but it's just a month. And then it'll ease up. But, the good thing is, and speaking to the PR and the other staff, is that our day is done at like 11. Practice till like 10:30, 11. Players right away, 11:05. You get 4 or 5 players, 11:30. I can write one up by noon. I can be out of there by noon and get my other half of my day started. So Patricia's schedule was more doc-friendly. This schedule is more adult-friendly in terms of getting in and out. But by and large, stay tuned to SIL Lions, Detroit Sports Podcast. We have somebody there from the podcast that is watching everything, can relay information, can make jokes. I'm relaying information as much as I can to Adam. Some things not pertinent to football, but, what am I going to text Adam about? 3-4 base or the other stuff I text him about? And that will stay between Adam and myself. But I will say this, being able to be there every time you get to step foot there, it's a little bit of a privilege and a little bit of the podcast broke the door and is covering the line. And we didn't get booted. I mean, legit, we didn't get booted. We've earned our way in multiple avenues. And like I said, COVID might put a stamp, a little bit of a barrier in between my status. But I think after year 3, 4, hopefully 5 of doing it, and doing it at this level, people now know me enough to the point where they at least respond to stuff, but maybe not exactly know my name. That's why you got to put yourself out there a little bit with some videos and stuff like that. I'll end on this, cause did you believe the Tom Brady video was real? Because it logically with your brain tells you that the jugs machine shoots outward. So when a football is going inward and stops, your brain should tell you it's not real, but there's so many people that battled on the other side. I was just like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? That was edited.
I didn't even know that was edited. I thought that was real. I was like, man, this dude is a savage
That
animal.
shit was edited, bro. Dude, think about it. The jugs machine shoots balls outward. How is the ball going to go in and stop? You thought that was real?
True.
You thought that was real? You thought that was real?
Yeah.
No, bro, it was edited. It came.
I was so excited when I seen that. I was like, this man is the baddest man on the planet.
Exactly. And so did you think my swim video was me swimming that fast?
No.
Oh, come on. See, you could at least butter me up and
I
say.
know what kind of athlete you are. Come on now.
Okay, so for those that it was only 2 times speed on
Look, Tom
iMovie.
Brady is the greatest of all time. Tom Brady could do anything. It doesn't matter. Tom Brady looked like he was flying. I'd be like, bro, did you know Tom Brady could fly?
Exactly.
And you feel like, what?
See,
I'm like, he's the greatest of all time.
That little snippet is kind of it summarizes beautifully my lot in life. Exactly. I want to be viewed as Tom Brady, where whatever nonsense shows up, oh, he did it. Yeah, no problem. Adam sees me swimming. He's like, oh, he doctored that. I can actually swim. Not that fast, but I can swim. I can get around for exercise purposes. But I think that's...
You probably swim better than me.
Yeah, I can swim. I can do the butterfly, the breaststroke. I was taught, and I that is my primary form of exercise that I do the most.
I was going to say, like, didn't you have, like, swim classes when you were a kid? Or, like, you competed in swimming or something like that?
No, I was a tennis guy, but I learned in high school...
You were a tennis guy, but I thought you did swimming as well.
No, not like competition-wise. I just got in the pool and learned the strokes, and I liked it because it was just easy to do, and, in the pool, you wanted to be safe. And I was petrified of going down to 12 feet to get that block, but I did it. I passed, as opposed to my sister, who tested out, allegedly, with an allergy from a fugazi doctor. I couldn't believe she did that. But she did. I'll rat her out. She tested out of gym class because she didn't want to, dive deep and do it. Hey, to each their own. But that's what I want in life. I want that respect at all levels. But at the same time, which is great, is that I always identify myself as a podcaster. That's what I am. Not a reporter, not a journalist, not this or that. I will always identify myself as a podcaster. SI is doing great things with podcasts. Podcasts are going to a higher level even to this day. And that's where I'm proud. I'm proud to say that the podcast is where it's at, and I can enjoy a conversation with you. Even after a long day, even if training camp was 25 hours long and I was working, I'd still record a podcast with you because we're just talking shit. We're, enjoying a laugh every single week, and you guys have allowed it to happen. Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Keep this blowtorch going. Let us keep talking shit on the internet. Let us keep building relationships with all the brands and everybody out there, because everybody knows that we're one of the originals that started podcasts and took it to this level to work with big-time brands and to have opportunities to cover sports, be part of the media, get in the mix, and things like that. So make sure anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast, you just type in Detroit Sports Podcast, and you hit that subscribe button, and our daily content will find you. Thanks, cuz I am so looking forward to next week. We can break down the Pistons, week 1 officially of the Lions, and we're in August, baby, which means Hall of Fame game. Will Calvin disrespect the Lions? We'll have it all, baby. Make sure you follow the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.